There is a moment in Zen practice that feels almost unfair. You arrive, eager to learn, ready to understand the mysteries of the universe, and the master looks at you and says, "Stop thinking." Just like that. No explanation, no manual, no 12-step enlightenment program. Just stop. And of course, your mind immediately replies, "Stop? Stop what? Am I stopping correctly? Is this the right kind of stopping?" Which is precisely the problem. When you first begin practicing Zen, the master prohibits intellectualization. Not because thinking is bad, but because thinking is loud. The analytical mind is like a hyperactive tour guide, who insists on narrating every moment of your life. You know the type. This is a tree. Trees are green. Let me tell you about the history of trees. In fact, here's a book about a book about a book about trees. And suddenly, you're no longer looking at the tree. You're looking at your thoughts about the tree. You're eating the menu instead of the meal. You're confusing the map with the territory. There are entire professions built around this. People who spend their lives thinking about things, but never touching the thing itself. Writers who write books about books. Teachers who teach methods about methods. Guides who create ways about ways. They orbit the truth like satellites, close enough to feel its gravity, but never landing on the ground. And the tragedy is subtle. They spend their whole lives believing they are not what they already are. Overthinking creates blockages, not because the thoughts are wrong, but because they pile up like snowdrifts. One thought becomes 10. 10 become 100. And suddenly you're buried under an avalanche of your own analysis. This is how mental blocks are born. Not from lack of intelligence, but from too much of it pointed in the wrong direction. Zen is the art of melting the snow, not by force, but by warmth. When you begin the path of awakening, you only need to learn 3 things. And they are so simple, so embarrassingly simple, that the mind refuses to believe them. First, there is no instruction manual. Awakening is not a technique. It is not a strategy. It is not a skill you acquire like knitting or tax accounting. It simply happens, the way snow melts when spring arrives. Second, there is nothing to get. You are already there. You have always been there. The only thing missing was your recognition of it. And third, there is no one trying to get there. The you, who is striving, searching, analyzing, improving, that is the very illusion awakening dissolves. This is the cosmic joke of Zen. The punchline of the universe. You spend years climbing a mountain, only to discover you were already standing at the summit. You were simply facing the wrong direction. So the master tells you, stop thinking. Not because thinking is the enemy, but because thinking is the fog that hides the landscape. When the fog lifts, the world is exactly the same, but you are not. You see clearly. You feel directly. You exist without commentary. You return to the simplicity of being. Awakening is not an achievement. It is a remembering, a returning, a homecoming. It is the moment you stop trying to become something and finally allow yourself to be what you already are. So if you believe you're on the path, or think you should be on the path, or fear you're somehow failing at the path, relax. Let the striving soften. Let the mind unclench its grip. Because in Zen there is no path to follow. There is no traveler walking it. There is only this moment, this breath, this snow, this quiet that asks for nothing. And when you finally allow yourself to rest in that quiet, you hear the truth Zen has been whispering since the beginning. You cannot get to where you already are.